What are racially restrictive covenants and how do they perpetuate systemic racism? Hey everyone, this is Cheryl Morrison, your local Chicagoland real estate attorney, and today I have a little bit different of a video for you, but I think that this is important knowledge for people to have to learn a little bit about history and how there is systemic racism that is built into the real estate and housing industries. So one of the things that us real estate attorneys do as part of our jobs when we're helping people buy and sell homes is we prepare and look at title insurance policies. And this is an insurance policy that you get with your home purchase that ensures that you have good ownership to your home. Now, these policies show recorded documents that show the past ownership of a home along with any liens that are against that property and restrictions on that property. Say, if there are easements for utilities or other building setback lines or things that affect your use of the property that you own. Now, one of the really common things that we'll see on these title policies are called covenants, conditions, and restrictions. If you own a home that is in a homeowners association or you have a condo or townhome that you own, this is something that you are pretty familiar with. You definitely would have seen this information. I gather this information and send it on to my clients to review because the declaration of the covenants, conditions, and restrictions along with the rules and regulations for that neighborhood are really important for you as the homeowner. Like I mentioned in a few other videos, these tell you what you can do with your property, what kind of fence you can have, what kind of pool you can have. Can you have animals? If you have a patio, are you allowed to put plants out there? Are you allowed to put a grill out on your patio? All of these things. Now, in addition to that though, what people don't know is in the past, there were very commonly restrictions so that you could not sell your property to a Black person, a Black family, or other people of color. In 1917, how this all started, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down zoning laws prohibiting Black families from living in certain neighborhoods. There were lots of zoning laws prior to 1917 that restricted where Black families were able to live. And at that point in 1917, the Supreme Court finally said that this is not allowed. It's against our Constitution. However, what people did then is they said, well, if we can't do this on a city level because for the government to participate in this discrimination is against the law, what about if we put these same restrictions in our covenants, conditions, and restrictions against the property? At this time, it was okay to do that because the covenants, conditions, and restrictions are something that the owners of the properties in that neighborhood get together, and it's basically like a contract. So since it was private individuals, private families coming up with this idea, it was something that wasn't illegal to do. So it was a really effective way for people to get around the unconstitutionality of racially discriminatory zoning laws by putting these racist restrictions in their covenants. So to buy property, you had to abide by these rules, and to sell your property, you had to abide by these rules. You couldn't sell your home to a Black family. These were really highly effective. It became very, very popular and very widespread, especially in places like Chicago and St. Louis and other big cities. In fact, this was so effective that it became an integral part of the federal government's housing policies. And let me read this to you because this, the FHA underwriting manual in the 1930s stated that if a neighborhood is to retain stability, it's necessary that properties shall continue to be occupied by the same social and racial classes. And because of that, they recommended that people should include these racially discriminatory covenants in their deeds to their property. And then it went on even further than that and started redlining neighborhoods in lending and insuring homes. Now, by the late 40s, these laws began to be challenged. Unfortunately, it wasn't until 1968 that the Fair Housing Act was enacted, and at that point only was this, these covenants, conditions, and restrictions based on race were then outlawed. Now, because equity in homes is the main source of wealth for so many of us middle-class Americans, this had huge, devastating effects that still persist today, and it really set Black families and the Black community back because they weren't able to buy homes in stable neighborhoods and build that equity for their families to pass that generational wealth down. Now, you might be thinking, well, this all ended with the Fair Housing Act in 1968, and just like the morphing of this from the discriminatory zoning laws to the discriminatory restrictions and covenants, now today there have been numerous studies showing that this actually hasn't stopped, it's just morphed again. And today that Black families are experiencing denials in their loans at a rate of 2 or 3 times that of white people, and that's after controlling for income and all sorts of other factors. It really can't be explained by any legitimate reason, and a lot of people think that it has to do with how credit is calculated and what things are excluded from boosting your credit scores, but the fact remains is that this discrimination hasn't gone away, it's just changed, and we still have a lot of work to do in the real estate industry before our industry is equitable for everybody. So this has been a really quick explanation of this, but I was looking at some title policies today, and it's interesting every time you look at the blurb about the covenants, conditions, and restrictions that run with that property. It has a disclaimer on there that they no longer are reporting any of those restrictions that are based on race. It doesn't mean that they're not there, it's just that they're no longer legal. And it just reminds me how, this stuff is real. The systemic racism is real, and it's something that each of us in our own respective industries should be thinking about and trying to figure out a better way forward, so that life is more fair and equitable for everybody. So I hope that you've enjoyed this little history lesson. It's, it sucks. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Please join me again tomorrow. I will be back on with a video answering more of your questions. I think I might continue this series and try to highlight some things in the real estate industry on the weekends, some things that, everybody should know. So thank you. See you guys later.